Impeachment Court spokesperson Attorney Reginald Tongol says the Impeachment Court's decision to remand the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte to the House of Representatives is not flawed. In an online interview on Friday, June 13, Tongol says the decision reached by Senator judges to return the document to the lower chamber was an action of liberality. He says there's no impropriety in what transpired and it was normal for such to happen in a collegial judicial body.
So actually, this is an action of liberality by the impeachment court na instead of using the power to have it dismissed, hindi na gano'n na nangyari. So walang impropriety doon, no? It is a normal in a collegial judicial body na gano'n ang nangyayari because one of the powers, inherent powers of any court is to look into the face of the document, the complaint itself, and see if there are defects in that document.
Sitting as an impeachment court, the Senate returned the articles of impeachment against Duterte to the House, citing supposed constitutional infirmities. The House has certified it did not violate the Constitution when it impeached Duterte on February 5. The lower chamber also deferred acceptance of impeachment articles until questions raised by House prosecutors are clarified. In deferring its receipt of impeachment articles, a House prosecutor clarified they were not defying the impeachment court's order. During the online interview, Tongol says the Senate impeachment court has the power to issue a contempt order to any party that disrespects and defies the court. He says the impeachment court's rules allows for the presiding officer and the court itself to cite any disrespectful party for contempt. Despite this, Tongol says the impeachment court has no intention of holding any House member in contempt.
Any party na mag-disrespect sa korte has the power to, pwede silang ipa-contempt ng korte, motu proprio o by a motion of any opposing party. At I think hindi rin balak naman ng impeachment court na contempt yung any person sa House dahil na rin, ayaw na rin naman natin makaaway naman yung House in terms of this matter. That's why the impeachment court is doing all its power para hindi magkaroon ng ganong mga banggaan o constitutional crisis na tinatawag.
With the summons issued to her by the Senate Impeachment Court. In an interview shared by the Office of the Vice President, Duterte says she and her legal team are discussing their response to the summons in connection with her impeachment trial.
Pag-usapan namin yan ng ating mga defense counsel at pinag-usapan na nila ngayon kung paano nila gagawin yung pag-comply sa summons na.
The OVP earlier confirmed it received the writ of summons from the Senate Impeachment Court on Wednesday, June 11. Upon receipt, Duterte has 10 days to answer the complaint against her in accordance with the impeachment rules. However, a House prosecution team member questioned what would be the basis of Duterte's response when the articles of impeachment were sent back to the lower chamber. The Senate convened as an impeachment court on Tuesday, June 10, and voted to send back the articles of impeachment to the House. The reason for the remand was to ensure that constitutional safeguards and issues of jurisdiction were not violated. The Senate sent a writ of summons to Duterte on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the House has adopted a resolution certifying that no constitutional provisions were violated when Duterte was impeached. The lower chamber also formally deferred acceptance of the remanded impeachment articles as House prosecutors want to clarify possible issues. Former Senate President Tito Sotto says senator judges in an impeachment court cannot make motions, a rule he says he learned from late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago. In a message on Friday, June 13, Sotto says the Senate's decision to remand the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte to the House of Representatives was flawed. He says senator judges can only ask questions for clarification, while the defense and prosecution are allowed to file motions. According to Sotto, senators should first study the Senate's rules before speaking out. He also urges senators to look back on the records and debates in the 11th Congress, when the first impeachment was discussed by Defensor Santiago and others. Sotto emphasizes that just because the rules do not explicitly prohibit returning the articles of impeachment, it does not automatically mean they are allowed to do so. Sotto also believes the remanding of the articles can be corrected, but it is up to the Senate of the 20th Congress. 18 senator judges approved a motion by Senator Judge Alan Peter Cayetano that returned the articles of impeachment against Duterte to the House. The remand sought to safeguard constitutional limits and jurisdictional boundaries. Cayetano was concerned the articles might have breached the constitutional rule allowing only one impeachment complaint per official. He also said that they could intrude on the jurisdiction and authority of the incoming 20th Congress. The House certified it did not violate the Constitution in impeaching Duterte. The lower chamber also deferred acceptance of impeachment articles as House prosecutors seek clarity on possible issues. Malacanang is brushing off Vice President Sara Duterte's allegation of fraud in the results of the 2025 senatorial elections. Duterte earlier called for Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan bets to question the 2025 midterm election results. In a briefing on Friday, June 13, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro calls Duterte's allegations as a mere wishful thinking.
Wish lang nila yon. Libre naman ang mangarap. Ang pangarap na iyon ay sa ngayon ay hindi mangyayari. Ang pangarap sana ay huwag gawing realidad, baka maraming maniwala.
Castro emphasizes that the results of the May 12 polls must be respected. She was then asked whether the Marcos administration is worried that such a statement from the Vice President could stir doubts among the public. According to Castro, this could be precisely what Duterte wants to happen.
Yan naman ang nakikita nating gusto nilang gawing naratibo. Sirain pati ang institusyon, ang kredibilidad ng eleksyon, pati na ang COMELEC. Yan ang talagang ninanais nila. Hindi naman sila siguro nagsasabi ng mga anumang positibo pagdating sa gobyerno o ginagawa ng pamahalaan. Sabi nga natin, mas maganda sana magtrabaho kaysa magbakasyon.
Duterte made the allegations during an Independence Day celebration with Filipinos in Malaysia. She claimed that 3 more PDP Laban Senate candidates won in the recent midterm elections. Commission on Elections Chairperson George Garcia declined to comment but said anyone is free to express their opinion in a democracy. Following the 2025 elections, the 7 PDP Laban bets who lost their Senate bids demanded a manual recount of votes. COMELEC had said the only way to trigger a manual recount of votes is to file an electoral protest. Vice President Sara Duterte says she hopes the criminal charges against Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Apollo Quiboloy will be resolved as soon as possible. In an interview, Duterte shares that she visited Kiboloy at Pasig City Jail before flying to The Hague, Netherlands. In May, the Vice President visited her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is detained at the International Criminal Court's detention facility. Meanwhile, Kiboloy is detained at the Pasig City Jail male dormitory on charges of child abuse and human trafficking. The Vice President says she was happy she was able to visit Kiboloy back then and wished for his good health.
Masaya ako, nagkaroon ako ng time noong panahon na yon bago umalis na bisita. At ngayon ay kinakamusta ko siya na sana ay nasa mabuting kalusugan siya at hindi na siya mahawa sa sakit dahil pagkakaalam ko sinabi ng doktor hindi na siya pwedeng magkasakit ng pneumonia. At sana ay maresolba na yung kaso niya sa lalong madaling panahon.
During her visit, the Vice President says she and Kiboloy discussed the results of the recently concluded 2025 midterm elections. Kiboloy recently called for a manual recount of senatorial votes. He alleged that there were numerous reports of overvoting anomalies, inconsistencies in ballot readings, and other electoral irregularities. Vice President Duterte also claimed that there was fraud in the 2025 senatorial elections. She believed the 3 more Partido Demokratiko Pilipino candidates supposedly won. However, she did not immediately provide evidence to support her claim. Commission on Elections Chairperson George Garcia declined to comment but said anyone is free to express their opinion in a democracy. Regarding calls for manual recount of votes, the COMELEC previously said it may be triggered by an electoral protest. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.